The entire villagers of Umunika village were gathered at the village square to witness the wrestling competition between Prince Obinna and the king's horsemen. The village once again was very quiet, and the silence was disturbing. All the virgin girls that the king chose were all tied up and locked away in a cage. No one was allowed to visit them or say a word to them. The girls were all praying to the gods to strengthen the prince, so that he will have the power to set them free. The prince was supposed to fight and win them for their freedom. The king at this point was expecting the prince to regret his actions and come apologizing, but no. Prince Obinna was strong-willed. He was determined to fight for the people's liberation. It was dawn, and the entire villagers were curious to what their fate will be. The women, men and children all sat on the ground, creating a resemblance of round theatre, where the center was to be the ring where the fight will be held. Prince Obinna had been preparing before now to face his father's most dangerous men, the horsemen of death. "I'm so sorry, my love," Amaka cried to Obinna, reaching out to touch him from the cage where she was held captive. "Someone has to put an end to this, my dear. It's entire die trying than not trying at all. I love you, my dear, but I believe our love will satisfy its true course," Obinna replied Amaka as he rubbed more white chalk on his body, preparing himself for the battle ahead. "My great people of Umunika village, I greet you. My king, I greet you. Elders of our land, I greet. May the gods be praised." The head of elders spoke, stepping into the ring to address the people. "My people, a sacrilege had been committed, and it is in our place to make things right. As we all know, my people, the king's orders has been challenged by his own son, out Prince Obinna," he said, and paused for a while, allowing the crowd to settle in first. "Today, we have come to address that matter here as a people. The prince will be wearing against 3 of the king's horsemen in this ring, one after the other. The prince is meant to defeat this men before her can be allowed to take Amaka as his wife," Elder Obona said. Soon, there was grave silence amongst the village. Everyone was shocked at the challenge the king was willing to put his son through, but Prince will have to face it for his village and his lover. If the prince defeats the king's horsemen, the virgins will be spared, and himself too will be spared. But if he fails, he will be sacrificed along with virgin to the gods in the evil forest. The elder continued, and there were chattering in the crowd. There was a murmur of unease from the crowd, but it quickly fell silent as the first of the king's horsemen stepped into the ring. His name was Ikenna, a giant of a man, his body covered in scars from battles fought in distant lands. He wielded a spear as tall as he was, and his eyes gleamed with a deadly focus. Obinna's hands clenched into fists. He looked towards Amaka, who was watching him with tear-filled eyes from behind the iron bars of the cage. "I will free you," he whispered to himself. Though she could not hear him, because she was too far to hear, her presence alone gave him strength. The drum beats began. The battle was set to begin. Ikenna charged. His spear was pointing directly at Obinna's chest, but Obinna was very quick. He dodged to the side and escaped the arrow. The crowd cheered as the prince moved with the strength and speed of a panther. Ikenna swung his spear again, but this time Obinna caught it with both hands, using his entire strength to pull the massive warrior off balance. He kicked the back of Ikenna's knees. The giant fell to the ground with a heavy thud. The villagers roared in cheers, but Obinna didn't celebrate too soon. Ikenna was not done. He rose to his feet with a roar. Obinna didn't have time to dodge, the spear missing his head thankfully. Sweat dripped down his head, but he focused. He had to win. He will win. As Ikenna came at him again, Obinna made his move. He dodged to the side and grabbed a handful of dirt, throwing it into Ikenna's eyes. The warrior stumbled back. He was blinded, and in that moment of weakness, Obinna struck. He sent Ikenna crashing to the ground. The giant warrior was defeated. The crowd exploded with applause, and the drums rolled, ending of the first round. Chima, the second horseman, entered the ring immediately, not letting Obinna to catch his breath. He was smaller than Ikenna but faster, with a wicked look that made the villagers frightened. He had twin blades in his hands. "Don't get too comfortable, Prince," Chima said as he circled Obinna like a predator. "You may have beaten Ikenna, but you won't survive me." Obinna didn't answer. His eyes were locked on Chima's blades. He was waiting for his moves. Chima struck first towards Obinna. The prince blocked with his arms, but one of the blades cut through his skin. Blood trickled down his arm, but he didn't surrender. He threw the next strike with his elbow to Chima's jaw. Chima staggered, but he soon recovered. This time, Obinna was ready. He grabbed one of Chima's wrists, twisting it sharply until the blade dropped from his hand. Obinna then kicked the second blade from Chima's hands. Chima was unarmed now, and this enraged him, charged at Obinna with his bare hands. But the prince was faster. He ducked under Chima and gave him a powerful punch to his stomach, followed by an uppercut that made Chima sprawling to the ground. The villagers began cheered even louder this time. Obinna had defeated the second warrior. Will Obinna have the strength to defeat the next horseman? Watch out for part 3.